When you look around this room, when you look at the world we live in, there's one truth that becomes impossible to ignore. Most people settle. Most people stop just short of what they could be, what they could achieve, and who they could become. But the difference between the average and the extraordinary, the difference between the dreamer and the achiever, is not luck. It is not talent, it is not background, it is mindset. And not just any mindset. I'm talking about the 1% mindset, the way of thinking that separates leaders from followers, creators from imitators, and winners from those who almost made it. The 1% mindset is not about being entitled, it's about being relentless. It's about pushing when others quit, believing when others doubt, and rising every single time you fall. Now, I need you to understand something. This is not a speech for the faint of heart. This is not about easy victories or overnight success. What I will share with you today requires courage, discipline, and sacrifice. But if you truly want to elevate your life, if you truly want to rise into that 1% who live differently, think differently, and achieve differently, then I ask you to give me not just your ears, but your heart for the next few minutes, because the words you're about to hear will not just inspire you, they will challenge you. They will push you, they may even make you uncomfortable. But if you stay with me, if you absorb what I'm about to say, you will never again see yourself or your potential the same way. So let's begin. Discipline over motivation. That is where the foundation of the 1% mindset truly begins. Motivation is beautiful when it comes, and it can feel electrifying, but the truth is, it is unreliable. It comes and it goes like the wind. One day you feel unstoppable. The next day you can barely drag yourself out of bed. And if your entire life, your entire future, your entire vision depends on whether or not you feel like showing up, then you've already given your power away. The 1% mindset does not depend on how you feel in the moment. It depends on the standard you hold yourself to regardless of the circumstances. Think about this. The most successful people in the world are not the most motivated. They are the most disciplined. They are not waiting for a spark of inspiration to hit them. They create structure, they create habits, and they commit to them whether they want to or not. Discipline means showing up on the days when you don't want to. Discipline means honoring your commitment long after the excitement has worn off. And discipline means refusing to negotiate with yourself when excuses start creeping in. You see, the average person makes decisions based on emotions. If they're tired, they skip the workout. If they're discouraged, they stop pursuing their dream. If they don't feel ready, they wait. But those with the 1% mind don't allow emotions to dictate their actions. They've trained themselves to act according to their commitments, not their moods. That is the difference. That is why the gap between average and extraordinary is so wide. Because one side only works when it's convenient, and the other works no matter what. I want you to remember this. Discipline is freedom. At first it feels rigid, it feels demanding, even exhausting. But in reality, discipline is the path that frees you from regret, from inconsistency, from the endless cycle of starting and stopping. When you choose discipline, you choose growth. You choose to rise above the excuses that hold most people back. You choose to become someone who does not rely on luck or chance, but who carves out results with intentional effort every single day. The 1% mindset is not glamorous in the beginning. It is built in the quiet hours when nobody is watching. It is built in those small choices when no one will ever know whether you followed through or not. Did you read the book you promised yourself you would read? Did you wake up at the time you set, even when the bed felt warmer than ever? Did you keep going when the results weren't showing yet? Those small decisions may seem insignificant in the moment, but they are compounding. They are building a foundation stronger than any burst of motivation ever could. Ask yourself this: how many times have you felt motivated only to lose it after a week, a month, or even just a few days? You felt inspired, you felt powerful, but then reality hit and you slipped back into old patterns. That is what happens when you rely on motivation. It runs out, but discipline that endures. That is why the 1% rise to the top. Because while others are waiting for the right time or the perfect feeling, they are out there doing the work. And here's the truth: it's not easy. Discipline demands sacrifice. Discipline means saying no to instant gratification. It means waking up earlier than you want to. It means putting in hours when no one is clapping for you. It means being willing to feel discomfort in exchange for growth. Most people aren't willing to pay that price, which is exactly why they remain average. But the ones who are willing to embrace that discomfort, who are willing to stick with the process even when it's hard, those are the ones who create lives that others only dream of. You have to decide what you want: more comfort or growth, convenience or greatness. You cannot have both. The 1% mindset chooses growth every single time. And the beauty is, the more disciplined you become, the less you need to rely on willpower. Habits take over, structure supports you, progress fuels you, and suddenly, what once felt like sacrifice begins to feel like empowerment. When you build discipline, you build trust with yourself. You prove to yourself that your words mean something. You start to believe in your own strength, because every day you live in alignment with what you said you would do. That is the most powerful confidence you will ever experience. Not the confidence that comes from applause or validation, but the confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself. So if you want to embody the 1% mindset, stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop relying on inspiration to carry you. Commit to discipline. Commit to doing what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it. Because that is where transformation happens. That is where the impossible becomes possible. That is where average ends and extraordinary begins. Discipline is not optional if you want to rise. It is the foundation. The second pillar of the 1% mindset is understanding the power of delayed gratification and holding a vision that stretches far beyond the moment you're living in right now. Most people crave immediate rewards. They want to see results tomorrow. They want recognition today, and they want comfort this very moment. But the truth is, nothing extraordinary is ever built overnight. The greatest achievements, the most meaningful legacies, the kind of success that endures, are born from the ability to resist the temptation of instant rewards and commit instead to the bigger picture. The difference between those who remain stuck and those who rise to the top lies in perspective. The majority think in days, sometimes weeks, but the 1% they think in years, in decades, in lifetimes. They don't chase the thrill of the moment. They commit to the vision of the future. This is why their actions look different. While others are distracted by the immediate satisfaction of pleasure or comfort, they are planting seeds that will grow into something powerful, even if it takes years to bloom. Think about this in your own life. How often have you quit something simply because the results didn't come fast enough? How many times have you started a routine, a project, a goal, only to abandon it the moment you felt frustrated that progress wasn't visible? That is the trap of instant gratification. It convinces you that if results aren't immediate, they're not worth the effort. But the 1% mindset understands that the greatest rewards are hidden on the other side of patience, perseverance, and sacrifice. It's easy to spend money the second you earn it, but far more powerful to invest it and let it multiply over time. It's easy to binge television for hours, but far more powerful to study, to learn, to work on yourself, even when there's no applause. It's easy to give in to comfort, but far more powerful to build discipline, to delay pleasure, and to wait for the rewards that only come with consistency. Every choice you make is either feeding your future or stealing from it. The question is, which one are you choosing? When you embrace delayed gratification, you train yourself to value the unseen over the seen, the future over the present, and growth over convenience. This is where vision becomes essential. Without vision, sacrifice feels like punishment. Without vision, discipline feels like a burden. But when you have a clear and unshakable picture of what you're building, every sacrifice suddenly has meaning. You no longer see it as giving something up. You see it as investing in who you are becoming. The 1% mindset is about holding that vision so firmly that nothing can shake it. It's about seeing the end result before it exists, and then living each day as though it's already on its way. That vision gives you the strength to say no when others say yes. It gives you the power to keep going when others give up. It gives you the ability to endure the wait, because you understand that what you're waiting for is worth more than any short-term satisfaction. There will be times when it feels like nothing is happening, times when your effort seems invisible, when your sacrifices feel unnoticed, when your progress feels painfully slow. And in those moments, most people quit. They trade their long-term vision for a short-term escape. But those with the 1% mindset, they know better. They know that growth is happening in silence, that roots are forming beneath the surface before the breakthrough becomes visible. They keep watering the seed long after others have walked away, and in the end, they are the ones who harvest the results. This is why patience is not weakness, it's power. It's the power to endure, to trust, to believe in what you cannot yet see. The ability to delay gratification, to hold on to a long-term vision, is what separates those who live ordinary lives from those who create extraordinary ones. Because in the end, anyone can be motivated for a day. Anyone can commit when the rewards are immediate. But only the few, only the disciplined, only the ones with vision, can commit when the rewards are far off in the distance. The life you want, the success you imagine, the future you dream of, it's not built in one moment, but in the daily decisions to prioritize what you want most over what you want now. That is the essence of delayed gratification. That is the essence of the 1% mindset. The ones who win big are the ones who can wait. Failure is one of those words that most people fear, and because they fear it, they spend their entire lives avoiding it. They don't take the risks. They don't step outside their comfort zones. They don't go after their biggest dreams because somewhere deep inside, they are terrified of failing. They imagine that failure is the end, that failure defines them, that failure is something shameful. But the truth is the complete opposite. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your teacher, your sculptor, your builder. It is the very thing that forges the kind of strength, wisdom, and resilience that only the 1% mindset understands. The 1% mindset does not look at failure the way most people do. Where others see an ending, they see a beginning. Where others see embarrassment, they see education. Where others see defeat, they see development. Failure does not stop them, it fuels them. And the reason is simple. They have trained themselves to see failure as feedback. Every setback becomes information. Every rejection becomes redirection. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to grow in a way they never would have if life had gone smoothly. Think about the stories of the people you admire most, the inventors, the leaders, the creators, the champions. Every single one of them has a trail of failures behind them, often far more than anyone realizes. Thomas Edison tested thousands of times before perfecting the light bulb. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he built. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. What separates them from the countless others who stopped trying after their first no? Their first mistake, their first rejection. It's their ability to embrace failure, to learn from it, and to keep moving forward. That is resilience. Resilience doesn't mean you don't get knocked down. It doesn't mean you don't feel the sting of disappointment or frustration. It means that no matter how many times you fall, you refuse to stay down. It means that you choose to see the setback not as proof that you can't succeed, but as proof that you're still in the game. The 1% mindset understands that every failure is part of the process, and each one is shaping them into someone stronger, sharper, more prepared for the moment when success finally arrives. The danger is that most people stop too soon. They let failure convince them that they're not capable, that maybe they weren't meant for something greater after all. But that is a lie. Failure does not mean you're not capable. Failure means you are learning. Failure means you are trying. Failure means you are alive in the pursuit of something more. And those who continue despite failure are the ones who eventually succeed. The truth is, failure humbles you in a way nothing else can. It strips away arrogance, it forces you to re-examine your approach, and it reminds you that growth requires struggle. It is in those moments of failure that your character is tested. Will you quit, or will you push through? Will you allow the disappointment to define you, or will you allow it to strengthen you? That choice is the defining line between the 99% and the 1%. Resilience in the face of failure also builds a kind of inner power that no one can take from you. Because once you've failed and risen again, once you've been knocked down and stood back up, you carry a confidence that no external validation can ever match. You begin to understand that failure cannot destroy you. It can only refine you. And when you know that, when you feel that deep in your soul, you become unstoppable. There is something else that failure does. It separates the ones who are committed from the ones who are curious. Many people are curious about success. They want it as long as it's convenient, as long as it doesn't come with too many bumps or bruises. But those with the 1% mindset are committed. They are in it for the long haul, no matter how messy the road becomes. Failure exposes this difference. It reveals who is truly serious and who is simply interested. I want you to think about your own life right now. Where have you allowed failure to stop you? Where have you let one rejection, one disappointment, one setback convince you that it wasn't worth continuing? How many dreams have you quietly buried because the pain of failure felt too heavy? If you're honest, you may realize that it wasn't failure that ended those dreams. It was your decision to stop. And if you have the courage to admit that, then you also have the power to change it. Imagine if you treated every failure as training. Imagine if every mistake was simply a step closer to your breakthrough. Imagine if you viewed each obstacle as proof that you were moving in the right direction. That is how the 1% see it. They are not discouraged by the fact that they failed. They are encouraged by the fact that they tried. And they know that each attempt is bringing them closer to the moment when it all clicks. Resilience is not glamorous. It's not something that gets celebrated in the moment. It looks like long nights of trying again after everyone else has gone home. It looks like wiping away your tears and choosing to keep going anyway. It looks like hearing no again and again and refusing to let it silence you. But years from now, when people see your success, they won't know the nights you cried, the times you almost quit, the failures that nearly broke you. They will only see the victory, And it will be because you had the courage to keep standing every time you were knocked down. One of the most dangerous misconceptions people carry is the belief that failure is permanent. They believe that one bad outcome defines them forever. But failure is never permanent unless you make it permanent by quitting. It is temporary. It is part of the process. And most importantly, it is necessary. Without failure, there is no growth. Without failure, there is no resilience. Without failure, there is no success. The 1% mindset does not avoid failure, it expects it. It does not fear it, it embraces it. It does not run from it, it learns from it. That is why the 1% rise while the rest remains stuck. They are willing to fail forward, to fail again and again, knowing that each time they are being sharpened, each time they are getting closer, each time they are building the resilience that will make them unstoppable. So if you truly want to rise into the 1%, you must change the way you see failure. Stop fearing it, stop running from it, stop letting it define you. Instead, let it teach you, let it strengthen you. Let it mold you into the kind of person who cannot be broken. Because once you've developed resilience in the face of failure, nothing in this world can stop you. Failure is not the end, it is the beginning. When we talk about the 1% mindset, there is one element that ties everything together, one factor that transforms vision into reality, and one quality that separates those who dream from those who achieve. That element is consistency. It is not the grand gestures, the rare moments of inspiration, or the occasional bursts of motivation that create greatness. It is the steady, relentless commitment to daily habits that build momentum over time. The 1% mindset understands that success is not the result of what you do once in a while. It is the result of what you do every single day, especially when it feels repetitive, especially when no one is watching, especially when it doesn't seem to be paying off yet. Consistency is the invisible force behind extraordinary achievement. Think about it. One workout does not transform your body. One healthy meal does not change your life. 1 hour of study does not create mastery, but the accumulation of those choices, repeated day after day, compounded over months and years, that is what builds transformation. The problem is, most people crave instant results, and when they don't see them quickly, they stop. They quit before consistency has had the chance to work its magic. That is why the 1% rise to the top, because they stay consistent long after others give up. The truth is, consistency isn't glamorous, it's not exciting, it looks like discipline repeated in small, ordinary moments. It looks like waking up early again and again. It looks like practicing a skill until your hands ache. It looks like saying no to distractions so you can stay aligned with your priorities. It looks like showing up in silence over and over until one day the results are too loud to ignore. The world applauds the breakthrough, but rarely sees the 1,000 repetitions that built it. The 1% mindset thrives in those repetitions. There's something powerful that happens when you commit to consistent daily habits. You begin to build unstoppable momentum. At first, it feels slow. It feels like you're putting in effort and nothing is changing. But consistency compounds, like water dripping on a rock. Over time, it creates an impact that no single drop could ever achieve alone. Each action reinforces the next. Each habit builds strength. Each small win builds confidence. And suddenly, the weight that once felt impossible to move begins to shift, not because of one giant push, but because of countless small ones. But here's the challenge. Consistency requires patience. It requires faith that the results will come, even when you can't yet see them. This is where most people fail. They want the excitement of immediate reward, so they give up too soon. But the 1% understand that results always lag behind effort. They know that success doesn't show up on your schedule. It shows up on its own, and only if you've earned it by showing up long enough to deserve it. Consistency also creates identity. Every time you follow through on a habit, you're not just building results. You're building belief in yourself. When you wake up early, you're proving to yourself that you are disciplined. When you work out consistently, you're proving to yourself that you are strong. When you practice your craft daily, you're proving to yourself that you are committed. And that identity becomes a powerful force, because once you believe you are the kind of person who follows through, you naturally continue to act in alignment with that belief. This is why inconsistency is so dangerous. Every time you quit, every time you break the promise you made to yourself, you're not just delaying progress, you're eroding trust with yourself. You're reinforcing the identity of someone who doesn't finish what they start. And over time, that belief becomes harder and harder to break. But when you commit to relentless consistency, even in the smallest of ways, you begin to rewrite that story. You begin to build a track record of keeping promises to yourself, and that becomes the foundation of true confidence. One of the most overlooked truths is that the difference between those who achieve greatness and those who don't is rarely talent. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It is consistency. There are countless talented people who never lived up to their potential because they lacked consistency. And there are countless people of average skill who achieved greatness because they showed up every single day and never stopped. The 1% mindset knows that talent can give you a head start, but consistency will take you across the finish line. Of course, staying consistent is not easy. Life gets in the way, distractions appear, fatigue sets in. There will be days when the last thing you want to do is keep going. And it is in those very moments that the 1% separate themselves from the rest. Because while most people let circumstances dictate their consistency, the 1% hold themselves to a standard regardless of circumstances. They don't let a busy schedule, a bad mood, or a lack of motivation become an excuse. They stay consistent because they've decided that their vision is non-negotiable. Consistency also requires simplicity. Too many people overwhelm themselves with grand plans, complicated strategies, or unrealistic expectations. They try to overhaul their entire lives overnight, only to burn out in a few weeks. But the 1% mindset understands that consistency is about small, sustainable habits. It's about doing a little bit every day, not doing everything in one day. It's about progress, not perfection. They don't chase extremes, they build rhythms that they can maintain for years. There's a quiet power in knowing that your life is being shaped not by what you do once in a while, but by what you do every day. If your daily habits are aligned with your goals, your success is inevitable. If they are not, your failure is inevitable. It really is that simple. Your future is hidden in your daily routines, and the 1% mindset never forgets this truth. Think about the power of compounding. If you improved yourself by just 1% every single day, you might not notice a difference after one day or even 1 week. But over a year, that consistent improvement would make you unrecognizable compared to where you started. That is the effect of small, consistent habits. They seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they transform everything. And let's be honest, consistency takes courage. It takes courage to keep going when no one is applauding. It takes courage to work when others are resting, to sacrifice when others are indulging, to stick with the process when results are slow. But the reward for that courage is a life that few ever experience. Because while the majority spend their lives starting and stopping, beginning and quitting, the 1% build momentum that never ends. And momentum, once built, is almost impossible to stop. Consistency is also contagious. When you live with relentless consistency, the people around you feel it. They see your discipline, they witness your habits, and they are inspired by your example. You begin to elevate not only your own life, but also the lives of those who watch you. Your consistency becomes a beacon of possibility, a reminder that greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. It is available to anyone willing to commit to the process. So the question is not whether you are capable of greatness. The question is whether you are willing to be consistent long enough to reach it. Are you willing to keep showing up, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one notices? Are you willing to trust that the small daily actions will add up to something extraordinary, even when it feels like nothing is happening? Because if you are, then success is not a matter of if, it is only a matter of when. The 1% mindset is built not in the moments of intensity, but in the moments of consistency. It is built in the ordinary days, the daily habits, the choices you make when no one is watching. And when you commit to relentless consistency, when you choose to show up day after day after day, you become unstoppable. Greatness belongs to the consistent,